Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Anyone who served in the military have some frightening stories, like overseas, after combat, or miscellaneous, so long as it's military-related.
Be Me, 2001, stationed at Shaw Air Force Base outside Sumter, South Carolina. Be Explosive Ordnance Disposal Technician, out at Poinsett Range, clearing known unexploded ordnance. We had a Shootex and a pair of Mk-82 general-purpose bombs, 500-pounders, failed to detonate. Go out with team, set up cameras to record disposal, set charges and spool out watching the detonation area. Technical Sergeant starts the count. Blast area clear, blast area clear. Fire in the hole, fire in the hole. Look up, see dude in the zone wearing all green. Not battle dress uniforms, fatigue-looking greens. Yell. Technical Sergeant looks up, sees him but has already fired. Date cord zips out, detonates. Hear this terrible scream, like cats fighting, amplified. Quick count, nobody missing from the team. Run down to the hole. Nothing there, no scraps, nothing. For those of you who have never seen and been near a large explosion, there's always something left if a person gets it. Blood, parts, uniform components, something. Rollback tape, audio picks up the screams, nothing on video. Security forces go out, search with dogs, don't find shit. Everyone goes back and gets shit-faced. I was never more glad to leave a base than I was a year later when I had permanent change of station to Nellis.
I don't know how scary this is. I mean, it's true in as much as I'm not lying or anything, but does it really mean that much? I don't know. A few years ago, 2008, I was stationed at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. My usual off-duty routine was to go up to the bra, a giant double canopy with a bunch of tables and benches under it, called the bra because of how it looked. Play Fate on my laptop for a few hours, shoot the shit with some friends of mine, then go to bed around 10 or so. Well, on this night, they had set up a boxing ring in the bra and were having what amounted to an anyone can fight tournament. It was pretty loud and had attracted a huge crowd. So I decided to find a quieter place to sit. I headed toward the chapel, since they had a lounge and I figured that would be a quiet place. The chapel was situated along a perimeter road. On the far side was a tall fence topped with barbed wire and a huge berm, essentially a wall of dirt. I saw a bright light on the other side of the fence cresting the top of the berm. My first thought was headlights, but who would be driving around in the middle of the desert? I started to walk up the berm so I could see over the top of the fence. I realized I might be in a little trouble for climbing around on the berm. There was a nearby guard tower, but when I looked up there was nobody in it. The towers were in a series along the perimeter, about 250 meters apart. I didn't see any activity in any of the nearby towers, so I ran up the berm. I figured if anyone said anything, I'd say some of my papers blew up there or something. When I crossed the top of the berm, the light was brilliant, almost painful to look into. I couldn't make out anything for probably a click on either side. My job was supervising passenger unloading, loading, and processing on the flight line. I'd been doing that for around 6 years when this happened, and I'd been on flight lines around the world working with all different aircraft. I've never seen any kind of operation with lights like this, even on temporary landing strips. I realized that even if I couldn't see whoever or whatever was out there, they might be able to see me, so I ran back down the berm. I was probably up there for about 2 minutes. I went into the chapel and there were a couple of people emailing and chatting. I started to say something, or ask one of them to come back outside with me and see it too. But I chickened out. I didn't want to be the UFO guy. I sure as hell didn't want to spend any quality time with OSI. So I made it look like I was looking for somebody who wasn't there, and I left. I kept my ear open for anyone talking about seeing something unusual, but it seems I was the only one. So here are my questions. 1. What the hell did I see? 2. Why were the guard towers unmanned that night? I went back 2 nights later. I pretended I was jogging, and every tower had at least 2 personnel assigned. 3. Was the whole boxing tournament thing designed to pull the maximum number of people to the bra in order to keep people away from the perimeter road? Normally, it's a popular spot for exercise, and the darker corners attract couples looking for privacy. 4. Finally, a long shot. Was anyone else at Al-Udeid Air Base that night who might have seen it? I've thought about posting this to forums, but I'm not sure I really want to attract too much attention or come off like some kind of kook. Nothing like this has ever happened to me before or since. I stayed in the Air Force another 4 years after this and separated without incident.
Back when I was in a small county town in Kansas, if you were on a country road driving, you would see a set of headlights up in the distance when you eventually got to them. They were gone also. When you would drive up to the small cemetery in the town, you see the lights. I'm not sure what it was though.
Be Marine on a Marine Expeditionary Unit in South America. Live in tiny little berthing areas with all of the mortar section. Start talking about paranormal and stuff. Guatemalan dude in the mortar section says he knows some shit, does some ritual and makes a Ouija board. Dudes start playing with board. Leave because I'm Catholic. Mexican too, by the way. Big-ass mortar man has doubts. Asks the board for something that only a supernatural entity would know. It spells out, Dad. Big guy freaks out, throws the board and leaves. Turns out dude's dad died like last night and left him a ton of money. End the session, lay everything down in a specific manner and go to chow. Everyone leaves. Come back, board moved to big guy's rack, but everything is in the exact same place. Everyone shits bricks. I can't remember, but a few more paranormal things happen. Sorry, I wasn't there. I left. Later. Meet up with a Guatemalan dude at the smoke deck. Hey man, be careful with that Ouija board stuff. It's not a game. Nah bro, I made all that shit up. I don't know any crazy rituals or have medicine man in my family. I made all that shit up because I'm Guatemalan and have an accent, and I knew those stupid gringos would fall for it because I'm foreign. This asshole's a 10 out of 10 troll. Light 2 Cuban cigars and smoke them, catch a mean buzz. Pinches gringos pendejos ja. Go inside, play Ocarina of Time and rack out. Mortar section still all creeped out by the board.
I never served in the military. Went on a creepy-ass hunting trip with a few of them once. 17 years old, my dad, his 2 Army friends, and my cousin was on leave. Went for a weekend retreat of hunting, fishing, and camping. Set up camp in the middle of a clearing. Virginia wilderness if anyone cares. Finish setting up camp, go to the stream and fish and discuss where to go exploring. Dusk approaches. We have this tradition of going for a nightly woods walk and try to scare each other with stories and such. Been doing it since we were kids. Not gonna lie, I was a little anxious but also very serene. If you ever go for extended hikes into the wilderness, you know what feeling I'm talking about. One of Dad's friends goes to take a piss, says he'll catch up. We walk for about 10 minutes, then realize we should stop and at least let him catch up. Another 5 minutes goes by. I'm a little worried, but my dad is cool, trusts the guy completely, and says how since he was a paratrooper, he knows the woods as good as the palm of his hand. A few minutes after we came jogging out of the bushes, a .357 revolver in hand. Says he was pissing and got the sense he wasn't alone. After he stopped, he waited and sure enough heard something in the leaves around him, circling him. Well, what was it? A bear? Mountain lion? Not sure, but if it was the biggest one living in these goddamn hills. Worried it might have followed him, so we head back to camp and don't see or hear anything, but get the "you're in my house now" vibe all the way back. Next morning we decided to go exploring, with a few guns just in case. See nothing odd until we get within a half mile of the trail we walked last night. I didn't want to get too close, but we were also curious. Get the same being watched feeling again. Then after a few minutes find the corpse of some animal, whatever killed it. Absolutely fucked it up. Its jaw and head was broken, disemboweled, limbs missing and scattered. Keep going north, finding dried blood splatter along the way. Get to the end of the tree line. After a bit of clearing is a cave, with some trees that at first glance appear to have fallen down around it. Friend's dad is like, "Hey Anon, go in it." I'm surrounded by gruff, older military guys, and being the runt, I had to prove myself. Creep towards it. Every step I realize this is probably a mistake, but I can't chump out. Get right in front of the cave. The trees in front appear to have been broken down like camouflage because all others around it are fine. Get that natural instinct telling you to just not do something, telling my not to set foot in that cave, pick up a few rocks, and start pelting them in there. Hear and kind of see something big shuffling around back there. Raise my rifle, but I'm convinced if I turn to run, it'll bite my ass. Fire a quick round off, followed by the weirdest, deep, guttural roar I've ever heard. I've heard all kinds of animals in the forest, and this didn't sound like any of them. If anything, it sounded like a messed up audio recording of a bunch of them and that raptor from Jurassic Park. Anon, back up to us now. Look behind and see all of them, rifles raised. Grown ass, military men. Guys who have seen combat and probably killed people are looking pale and scared shitless, which scares the shit out of me. Run back. Feel like I have sand in my legs and I can't move fast enough like a bad dream. We get in a single file line, don't say anything, and fast walk back to camp. Each of us had a round in the chamber. Something was definitely following us. When you're that scared, your adrenaline gives you superpowers and you hear, see, and smell things like you wouldn't believe. See a big silhouette about 30 yards away, taking big strides alongside and then past us. If I hadn't been looking that way, I wouldn't have missed it. My heart skips into my throat. Tries to tell my cousin, but he's like, "Just keep going forward, forget it," in a panicky voice. Start tossing shit into the trucks in no particular order. One of the guys took it upon himself to stand guard and just sort of marches around with a rifle. Get everything accounted for, jump into the cars like clowns at a circus, and go down a 30 miles per hour road doing 60. Get to our favorite diner we usually go to at the end of the trips, order lunch, and sit silently. I get up to use the bathroom, see my dad and the friend that dared me to go into the cave out by the car. Dad is chewing his ass out for doing that, and then says we don't say shit about this for the rest of the day, and especially not to the wives. Drive home. My cousin falls asleep. I pretend to, but really listen to the quiet mumbling about it because of course they're not going to not talk about it. Go around and say they've always heard rumors about stuff like this, but thought it was bullshit. Never go back to that spot again. Never go camping by myself ever again. Real shame because I used to love doing that, but now I'll be damned if I'm not the slightest bit uneasy going into the woods. The end.
Navy bro here, a Rover Watch in a busted up barracks at a training command. Walk through a hatch to a ladder, well right at midnight. Lights dim as we walk further down from third to first deck until it's pitch black. On the first deck, this is pretty creepy .jpg. 3 doors, screw my life keycard won't open any. Door to the ladder well is locked. Just radio into the quarterdeck. Someone will come get us from the other side. Radio static. I'm sleep deprived. Friend asks if I heard a noise. Look out the door glass to the outside. See a girl and a Marine drill sergeant running. Turn to friends. Is that a drill instructor? Turn back to look a second later. No one to be seen. Dude, WTF. The card reader goes nuts and the door to black hallway opens. Power still out, mind you. Bail. Sprint down pitch black hallway with friend. Scratching noises in all locked rooms. Open the door to the quarterdeck. Get chewed out by the chief for double timing in uniform. Stops yelling and asks us if we saw a ghost. I don't know, Chief. Chief smiles. You're relieved to go back to your barracks across the street and get some sleep.
Was in the United States Marine Corps from 2003 to 2007. I was a communications guy. Yeah, I was a pogue. Bite me. Did 3 deployments to Iraq in 05, 06, and 07. On my second deployment, we were stationed at Al-Assad Air Base about 90 miles away from Baghdad. Anyway, all over the air base there are these giant bunkers. PIC related. We called them Yugos because they were built by the Yugoslavians back in the early 80s and 90s. This was a time when we were still friendly with Saddam. Most of the bunkers, about 80%, are abandoned and still filled with pre-war junk. None of them had lighting or plumbing. A few were cleared out though and retrofitted with water and electricity, then converted into makeshift offices because they have tons of different rooms and pathways. Our unit was stationed in one of these bunkers. because they protected all of our valuable and scarce comm equipment from enemy mortar attacks, which were frequent at the time. Anyway, me and a buddy got bored at night, as was common, and we decided to investigate a nearby abandoned bunker. This was strictly against the rules because it was believed they could have been booby-trapped. Also, we had to sneak past the Ugandan guards to get to the bunkers. Ugandans were employed as base security, mostly at checkpoints and stuff, but not for actual combat. So it's pitch black outside, and me and my buddy get a pair of bolt cutters, take the long way around to avoid being spotted, throw a piece of wood over the concertina wire, crawled across, and come upon the entrance. We cut the lock, open the iron doors, and walk inside. We flip on our flashlights and start exploring. It's mostly chairs, desks, admin shit. We found a couple of empty AK-47 mags, some papers and diagrams and charts in Arabic, etc., etc. We're about halfway through, moving room to room, and I shit you not, we heard a woman's voice say something in Arabic. We stood still for a few moments, looked at each other, and bolted back outside. I don't speak the language, but my friend knows conversational Arabic. He said the voice said, "Who is there? Who are you?" We never went back in because we're huge cowards, but we later learned that several women took their own lives in a bunker on base. Was never confirmed if it was the bunker we were in. Also, the Ugandans would occasionally report blue lights around the bunkers at night. This is unusual because we only used red lights at night so as not to screw up our night vision. TL, DR, ghost ladies in Iraq.
Keep going.
The women who took their lives were aides to the Iraqi officers. 9 of them took their lives when the base was being taken over by coalition forces during the early stages of the Iraq War. Apparently, there was a bunch of Iraqi propaganda going around that coalition forces weren't going to take any prisoners, men shot on sight, women attacked then killed, etc., etc. So the women chose to die rather than that. That's about it, man. Like I said, we never went back to the bunker. I'm not gonna mess around with ghosts.
Be me, be in basic training, be on charge of quarters duty. Basically a whole lot of cleaning. Shift is a few hours, there's a TV in the rec room area. Get to see Tyson bite off Holyfield's ear. Top keck. The drill sergeant on duty leaves to somewhere after a while. Turns off TV, most of the lights, leaves one on. Me and other private clean the rec room, leave to clean bathrooms in the company area. Do that and come out to the company area again. All the lights and TV are blaring loud. WTF.jpg. Turn everything off and go to the clean commander's office. Come back to check on things. TV blaring and all the lights on again. Turn them all off. Look around for drill sergeant. Drill sergeant nopid.jpg. Spend the rest of the shift assuming the drill sergeant was messing with us.
Story from a friend. Details removed to protect the innocent. Be really far up north in Alaska in the middle of nowhere about 10 years ago. Parked truck near an old abandoned beat-up plywood shack. There's only some trash in there, like beer bottles and shit. Have a 12-gauge pump shotgun with some deer slugs for hunting caribou and shit. Already killed one deer and put it in the back of the truck. There's still light out. Decide to explore to see if there is any more game out here before it gets late. Just start walking into an area that was never visited before. Find a lot of trees in this one flat area that look like they were split open vertically and a little bit burnt and charred around where they were split. Most of the trees are normal, but some of them kind of look like they were hit by lightning or something. Walk through this odd forest until there's a small hill. Climb up the hill. Find a piece of copper wiring sticking out of the snow, about halfway up there. Pull it out. It's about 6 feet long, braided, a bit fatter than the kind of cable you use for hooking up car batteries with red-colored insulation on it. The ends are a bit tarnished with some green copper rust, and they are not cut clean. The ends look like it was ripped or shredded, like someone just yanked extremely hard on it until it broke or something. There's like nothing out here, so it's weird that anyone would have a big-ass piece of electrical cable like this. Get up to the very top of the hill. There's a fairly steep slope going down on the other side, about 40 feet down or so. Can see lots of shit for a few miles. Decide to sit down and look through pocket binoculars. There's not that many trees, but there's a small stream up ahead that's frozen over. No animals, though. There are some dark blue barrels off in the distance, maybe 15 walking minutes ahead. While looking at the barrels, notice some movement to the left. It looks like there's some guy standing there wearing dark clothing, facing away. Can't see his face. He's not walking anywhere or doing anything. He's just kind of idly standing there. He turns to the side and I can see that he's got a big backpack and some kind of rifle with him. I start to wonder just what the hell he's doing out here, just standing there, because the nearest actual house is like 5 miles away. He turns toward me, and then after about 10 seconds he grabs his gun off his shoulder and starts running towards me with his gun pointed at me. Nope. Grab my shit and start running back towards where I parked my truck. Nope, down the side of the hill. Keep running through the forest. Starting to get tired now, trying not to get lost. After about 5 minutes of running, I look back to see if I'm being followed. See some white lights near a ridge further back east. Keep running and eventually realize that there's a bunch of vehicles way out there driving towards me. Finally get to the shack where the truck is parked. Throw my shit in the passenger seat and start the engine. Nope, out of there, back onto the trail. After about 5 minutes of driving, there's a helicopter off in the distance. The helicopter slowly follows for about 30 minutes. It turns back once I get to the highway, and that's his story. Our general opinion is that it was near some military base or something, but it wasn't marked on any map or anything.
Okay, here's one when I was still in the army in Australia. B infantry on a field exercise on PK at 3 to 4, just surveying the tree line. See something moving the short grass. Be confused as I know for a fact there are no enemies around. My old platoon leader was playing the enemy and was texting me when they went to bed. Get a sight picture of something, some really long arms or legs. It was walking on 4 legs or arms. Watch it move to a nearby tree. It slowly climbs up this tree but does not climb exactly. Just stand up on 2 legs against the tree. It hasn't seen me, I don't think, as it's scanning the area. I don't think it knows what's going on. It goes back to all 4s and starts to scurry toward a section of guys where they are sleeping. I shout the password expecting it to scurry off. It just pops its head up and stares at me. I'm terrified at this point. I wasn't even scared until it noticed me. I let off 3 rounds. It shrieks this terrible noise that wakes people up. I start yelling there's something over there as people run to me to see WTF I'm doing. A few people see it scurry off into the tree line. A lieutenant gets a section of people with live rounds together to go find it. He calls into HQ telling them there's an animal here harassing us. I have to describe it over the radio. I'm told it's nothing. The lieutenant is told to stand down. The lieutenant knows I'm not lying. We both deployed to Afghan together. Makes us all pack our shit up and move positions. Didn't sleep much for the rest of that exercise. Got back to base and had to explain to our commanding officer what happened and why I shouldn't be charged for UD. I got off but had to be psych tested even though a few guys saw it. It was pretty bullshit. But I seriously think it was a skinwalker, even though I thought they were made up, but it's the only thing that is sort of close to what it looked like.
Holy shit, this thread is still here. Okay then. Deployed in Afghanistan. Sent on another BS recovery mission. Something about abandoned munitions in a turban town. We are sent to confirm how much there is and what condition it's in, so it can be airlifted out. We get dropped off a little more than halfway there and have to fast march the rest of the way there. We arrive at about 600 hours and the whole town is abandoned. DBs scattered and some in the houses. Anon take herp, derp, and fuckface and search those houses on the north end. First few minutes were nothing eventful, but the second to last one we heard noises. So we prep for a breach. Lucky me on point. Again. Hold up guys, it's barred from the outside. Screw it, I have charges, I got this .jpg. Blammo, let's do this. Clear left, clear right, clear, oh my god. Red Sanskrit all over the walls, noises louder like someone whimpering. 2 human-esque objects in the far corner of the room. Contact front, I yell. It's just some dude crying in the corner with blood on his face, clutching a black good for dear life. The figure next to him, covered in black robe, looks like a burqa. Logic dictates woman. Guy is crying and chanting something and squinting because he now has 4 flashlights on him. Herpy, WTF is he saying? It sounds like he is praying. Tell him to stand up, we have to search them. Herpy is our translator in case you didn't catch that. He says he can't stand up, his legs are gone. How did I not notice that his legs look like they have been chewed off? quietly panic. Herpy, ask him WTF is going on. I don't know, he won't answer me anymore, he just keeps praying for forgiveness. Screw that. Derp goes search them. Searches the man, he's clean. Praying gets louder and more irritating. Derp reaches for the woman, and she starts moaning like a wild beast. Derp backs up and draws to fire. Herpy, tell her to take off the burqa and put her hands up. At this point, I don't give a damn about cultural respect. A man starts freaking out, trying to move away. I notice now most of his back is gone. I can see bone, blood, muscle. WTEF. I raise weapon. This next part is kind of fuzzy since at this point everyone is freaking out a little and yelling. Herpy is yelling at the woman, the man is yelling, Derp and Fuckface are yelling at me asking what to do. Woman starts shrieking and groaning, a sort of inhuman tortured soul kind of noise. Man starts losing his cookies. Starts smashing his head against the wall over and over. Watch in disbelief as he literally smashes his brain into pudding. All noise stops. Feels like forever quiet. All of a sudden the thing starts screaming. Loudly. It stands up. It was not a burqa, just a large black cloth. It's tall, like over 7 feet. I can see its arms and legs. Dark brown wrinkled skin, long nails, yellowish blemishes scattered. Too scared to move or think. The noise is so loud it's hurting my head and making me cup my ears. It back up to the wall and somehow crawls 7 feet of its terrifying ass into a hole. Roughly the size of a football, ass first. I mean, holy shit. It looked like a giant spider getting sucked into a vacuum a quarter of its size, all while wearing a blanket. Derp fires 2 rounds in the hole. Too shocked to say anything, just standing there with a stupid look on my face. Radio lights up. Anon, WTF is going on? We heard shots fired. Nothing, Sarge, we have it under control. After coming down from shock, we quickly discussed WTF happened and what to say to everyone else. Decide not to look crazy and cover it up. We cover him with a rug and try to wipe off the red. Later discovered blood, writing on the wall. Report back for an ass chewing on why we radioed. We were breaching a building but not reporting any conflict that needed firing a weapon. The 4 of us talked a few times more about it. How it was weird no one else heard the screams or saw anything running away. I never went back to that base after I left on leave. I was transferred and debriefed on the situation. My guess is someone talked. No matter how bad I wanted to tell the shrink as base about it, I don't want to be prescribed crazy pills. I already have some for PTSD I don't take. I know what I saw. We all did, and I will never forget it. 2004. Paktika Province, Eastern Afghanistan. My platoon is holding up in an ancient, over 100-year-old British fort. Looks like a classical castle wall with turrets in each corner. Have to pull guard in one turret one night. Around 3 a.m., start hearing blood-curdling scream. Initially think it's nearby town, like Taliban delivering night letter and cutting some poor schlub up. A few minutes later, I realize a scream is coming from inside the base. Think it could be someone snuck on base. I want to investigate but can't leave my post. Eventually, Sergeant on guard comes by. Tells me it was a guy in another guard tower, who happened to be my NCO, had a panic attack of some sort. The next day I find him in the rest area. He's pale white, staring blankly into space and can barely talk. Tries to tell me that he saw a ghost. Not just any ghost, but a real legit actual ghost in his guard tower. Former inhabitants of the fort. Think he might be bullshitting or hallucinating, but he's far too mentally disturbed to pull off a stunt like this, and he's definitely not a good enough actor to make it up. Whatever he saw, it scared him into a catatonic state. Gets medevaced back to Organy next day. Never see him again. I don't know what he saw, but getting out of that fort was the happiest day of my life.
I come from a big military family. All of them have stories, the kind that keep you up at night and make sure you never sleep right again. But most of those stories are just about the human kind of horror, the terrible shit people do to each other in wartime. The only paranormal story we ever got was out of my grandfather, who served in World War II. Grandpa lost a lot of family and friends during the war due to the Nazi occupation. For him, and for most of the men he served with, it was personal. When my grandmother died, we found all of these boxes and trunks of her belongings in the attic. Cleaning them out, we found all this stuff from the war, mostly letters my grandfather had written, but there were a lot of grisly trophies in there too. I shit you not, with one of the letters he sent her, there was a small package containing these uniform pieces with swastikas and ribbons on them. They were soaked in blood. Grandma had kept that bundled up with her love letters and all her most cherished possessions. Let's just say that she had some anger about the occupation as well. There were also a lot of photos my grandfather had taken. Some of them were just guys messing around in uniform, but there were a few of him posing next to dead bodies, grinning. There was also a set of photos of a mass grave and coordinates written on the back. No other explanation. Anyway, here is Grandpa's one spooky story. Was on a base in Scotland for a couple of weeks. Scotland is too spooky, all filled with fog and mist and shit. Be walking along, suddenly feel something hit my chest and lick my face. Like a dog just jumped up on me. Can feel its paws and everything. Stop dead in my tracks, looking around. There is no dog there. Guys from the base say, "Ah, you've met the ghost." The ghost dog kept following me around, jumping up on the bed at night, licking my hands. Makes sense, Anon. The Scots love their dogs.
Not an actual soldier or jarhead story, but more of a boot camp. I enlisted in one of those military camps for young adults, where you learn all sorts of stuff, but it's not the actual army. I think it's called boot camp, but I'm not sure. Anyway, wet behind the ears. Have patrol duty with a mate. We get by the lake at around 21 o'clock. It's already dark. To get around the lake, it takes 4 minutes at most. Halfway through, enter our team leader. Talk for a couple of minutes. Bye. Get on the other side of the lake. Meet the team leader again. Angry. We searched for you the whole night. WTF, we just met 20 minutes ago. Check the watch. It's past 4 in the morning. Scared. Try to make him remember. Apparently, we never met that night. MFW, me and my mate got to guard the hole we dug as punishment. I can't actually explain what happened, but stuff like this happened a lot around that place. Google Hoya Forest. Once a guy entered and went out 3 days later. He thought he only spent an afternoon there. That forest is freaking haunted.
IDF here. Served for 4.5 years. Golani Battalion. Got some stupid shootout stories, but some extraordinary. Here's my last one. Be in Gaza last conflict. Be doing usual drills in the type of conflict. Been 2 times in Gaza during major operations, once in late 2008 and last one was this year. The IDF called the Palatinites, who had nothing to do with Hamas, to leave deeper into the major refugee camps. Hamas get pissed, telling people to stay put or they will be executed. It's a type of Hamas war tactics and propaganda, since they respect death and see life as just a corridor to heaven, and on the other hand, presenting pictures of dead babies creates pressure. Some flee. Those who flee sometimes being captured by Hamas. The father is given a self-end bomb strapped to him and told to just keep on walking among refugees, women, children, old people, or their family will be shot. Be guarding the roadway for wounded evacuation near Sagaya. Don't know how to write it in English, so fuck it. See a crowd of refugees fleeing in our direction. Not good.jpg. Out of nowhere, a large explosion in the crowd. Human pieces everywhere. The stupid fools pushed the button too soon. Anyway, be in Rihan, Basel, a strong point in Mount Dov, Bear. It's located near the Lebanese border. This is what we Israelis refer as Pumpkin Fortress, a type of strong point bunker that is underground due to the damage of mortars used by Hezbollah. The entire thing is sometimes underground and makes you feel really shit sometimes and lose your mind really quickly due to boredom. Be one night guarding as a fresh combat-trained soldier looking at darkness for miles, very green thumb. 2 hours in, about 2 a.m., and I get a call on the radio saying to stand sharp because one of the fence's movement detectors is beeping. The unit who's responsible to check in infrared cameras can't see special movement, but the detectors go crazy every couple of minutes. All the regiment is now up and ready. Time to fight .jpg. Since I was the battalion commander radio boy at that time, once you finish basic training, you get sorted out for special training. I wanted to be a point marksman, but shit happens. I was on the first team to check in the fence as a signaler. We walked in quietly, as I told before I was in the Golani Brigade. The brigade is trained to fight in the north sector of Israel because Hezbollah is mainly fighting in guerrilla warfare. So we knew the code for this kind of situation. We set up an ambush about 300 meters from the fence, staring at it. See nothing in the night vision, yet they tell us the sensor is beeping. Be there until 5:40. Then we saw it. A barn owl. I love those animals so much, yet this one kept the entire Northern Command on its feet. PIC related. It is the uniform tag of the unit who's watching the borders via cameras. This one is more personal to me. Be 2.5 years later, be in central Gaza, be still signaler, be a radio boy of a salt of the earth man, Major Eliraz. My God is a secret in Hebrew. Usual routine of patrolling the strip dividing Gaza from Israel, about 2 kilometers of strip of flatland, from our side of the fence. I was meant to be his radio boy that day. Felt sick all morning due to food poisoning. The unit medic tells me to lay down for a while. A guy named Ilan is taking my place. About afternoon, they were on their usual patrol. A stupid asshole takes a Dragunov from a second-story window in the refugee camp. He shoots and misses, but bad luck strikes and the ricochet bounces, hitting Eliraz in his Grande. He was killed instantly, Ilan too. I guess I was lucky. PIC related is Eliraz on the left, Ilan on the right. Rip brothers.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check the Odyssey and Rumble pages for separate archives of previous broadcasts.